Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Marrick's Koi Pond. Beautiful sunny day today. Another one. What a summer. What a spring. What a summer. What a season. All right, let's go outside. We'll have a walk about. We'll have a bit of a talk. Plants are doing exceptionally well this year. Oh, by the way, do you see what I've done with the title there? Any of you remember a certain phone company, mobile phone company? If it stays like this, could be frying tonight. Well, here we are at the pond. This is what I wanted to talk to you about today, about ozone. I've gone down the ozone route on this pond. Now that is crystal clear, believe me. It might look like that's got a bit of a greeny, yellowy hue to it, but that's because literally all the greenery, got a grapevine growing along there, all along there. Got the acer trees there and the fern there, so it's reflecting into the pond and refracting through the water, which might give it a greenish yellowish hue, but trust me, honestly, that is crystal clear, that water. I can tell because when these fish swim to the bottom, that shirogi is white. It's as white as can be, where normally when this when this has got algae in the water, or it has, the colourants from the food leaching into the water, they go sort of, that shirogi is really coloured, deeper they swim. But anyway, the reason I wanted to talk to you about ozone was, just give me a minute, let this plane fly over and I'll be back. Where was I? Yeah, the reasoning for anybody that's been following my channel, I put a couple of shorts out, getting some kit together, this ozone kit together for the next koi project. Anyway, it's up and running, it's fitted, and I just wanted to explain the reasoning for why I made that decision. I struggle with chloramines. I really do. I've got a big blue on there. It's eating charcoal, and it's I could fill that up with new charcoal. Fortnight later, do a chlorine reading, a total chlorine reading, and it's showing chloramines, and it's just doing me head in, just sick to death of it. There was a time, I don't know, 10 years ago, you could throw a koi in here, forget about it, and it would be perfectly hardy, look after their cells. 15 years ago, I mean, what was KH, what was pH, didn't know anything about anything, and they was hardy, and they survived, and they thrived. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's infrastructure or lack of infrastructure. I mean, I live in a little village in between St Albans and Luton. St Albans is about, I don't know, 5 miles down the road from me. I grew up in St Albans, and if you jumped in a car when I was a kid with my dad, if we went to Watford, it was like an excursion, you know what I mean? It was like a day out. It was miles between Watford and St Albans. Whereas now, I mean, if you went to St Albans and went to Watford, you wouldn't know where the border was because they're practically joined up. And the same, St Albans is practically joined up with Hatfield in the opposite direction. Hatfield's joined up with Welwyn Garden City. There's so much infrastructure over the last 30 years, and especially over the last 10 years. industrial estates, housing estates going up left, right and centre with no infrastructure, no new reservoirs being built, no new water treatment plants being built. And I think it's right what they say, you know, it might be a cliche, but you know, you've got to look after your water. And I just don't think these water companies can handle the demand, you know. I don't know if they're trying to buck the system or trying to get the water through the system before it's been fully processed, you know, so consequently they're throwing chemicals at it, you know, to make it fit for human consumption. But what's it doing to our fish, and what's it doing, you know, cats, dogs, I don't know. But the water that comes out of my tap is horrific, it really is. But I don't know if you can tell. I mean, I can tell straight away just by looking at them bubbles coming off of that shower. You know, they're white bubbles. There's no colourants in there, not yellow or green, which is what it was like a fortnight ago, even with the UV running 24 hours a day. Sorry about the glare. If I could see through this glare, you'd see the bottom. It's literally crystal. Right, I'll take you in the filter house and I'll show you what I've got set up in there. Heater's on, whisper quiet. Right, here we are in the filter house. This is what I fitted. That is what you call an ozone mixing tube reactor. I mean, basically it's just a mixing tube. And you see these blades, they're like PVC plastic blades, run all the way through that acrylic tube. And what it does, the ozone and air mixture goes in there, in that point there, and what the point of these vanes are is it chops the bubbles up into finer, smaller bubbles, because ozone, you know, for it to work effectively and efficiently, you need as finer bubbles as you can get, really. And the idea of that is to chop all them bubbles up, so by the time it gets to the end of that tube, it's very, very fine bubbles. So that's the mixing tube, or the reactor. I don't know why they call it reactor, it's just basically a mixing tube. That is the ozone unit itself. Now it's very important, it runs on a 20 litre air pump, which is down there, 20 litre minute air pump. And it's very important that you put a moisture trap in line, because you don't want any moisture, any dampness or moisture in the air going through that ozone, because it will damage it. It needs to be cool, dry air that goes through there. Now that is a 2 gram unit. That is. Now you can go smaller. One of the inefficiencies of this is the fact that it needs O2 to make O3. O3 is ozone. But you know, the makeup of air, you know, that air pump is pumping, there's only a very small percentage of that air that's pumping, 20 litres a minute, that is actually usable, that is actually O2. You'd be surprised, you know, it's made up of hydrogen, nitrogen. You know, I'm no scientist, which reminds me I better put a disclaimer in here, you know, anything I'm telling you now don't take as gospel, you know, although I think I've got a fundamental understanding of it, how it's made, how it works. You know, there's things I could have misunderstood and got wrong, so I don't want you to take what I'm saying as gospel. But what was I saying? Yeah, although that pumps 20 litres a minute air, you'd be surprised, only a very small fraction of that air is actually O2, which is oxygen. The rest of it is made up with other gases, which obviously that ozone generator doesn't use. It's only interested in the O2 molecules. Now you can, to make that run more efficiently, or to allow you to run a smaller unit, you could feed it with an oxygen generator where it's pumping practically pure oxygen in there. But then you're talking about like hospital grade equipment, £1,000 worth, and then their service cost. It's got molecular sieves that have to be changed, cleaned. It can become a real headache and a real expensive. But I'll just switch it on and then you can see it actually operating. Alexa, turn on air pump.
Okay.
Alexa, turn on ozone.
Okay.
I don't know if you could hear that, it's just fired up. It's got a fan in there. Draws air in from the top. Got like a little computer fan here, draws air in at the top. Draws air down the bottom. The reason for that is because it's quite high voltage. Needs high voltage to produce the O3, the ozone. But it's not too bad in wattage. I think that's 80 or 85 watts that uses, which really is not too bad when you consider this reverse osmosis pump there. I mean, that runs at 270 watts. Now, I've put a potentiometer on it and I've got it down. It runs nicely at 170 watts. But even so, 170 watts compared to 85 watts, and I'm running this 12 hours a day at the moment. Very important, that moisture trap. You don't want any moisture going into there whatsoever. Now, I was advised not to fit this in my filter house, but to fit it in a clean, dry shed or garage or wherever. But unfortunately, the shed next door to me, that roof is a bit porous now. It needs new felt put on it. I'm only running this is only going to run during the summer, so it's pretty dry in here. It's pretty well ventilated in here. Got a ventilator grill there, one in the door. So the humidity in here is relatively good. I don't know what that says. That's pretty accurate, this. Just over, we'll say 38% humidity, which means it's pretty dry in here. And overnight, when the door is shut, it gets no higher than sort of 55-60%. Well, if I stuck that outdoors in a protective box outside, that's going to be like 70-80%. So for the summer, I think that will be okay in here. Won't use it during the winter. I shall take it off the wall, wrap it up, and put it away for the winter. Right, let's see. I'm not sure if this will pick this up. Can you see the bubbles coming through there? Can you see the ozone going through there? Now that looks a bit green and a bit mucky in there. It's because this tube I've had running on here, it's been in line for about 3 weeks before I turned on the ozone unit itself, so after a period of time I'm expecting the ozone to clear all that off of there. That'll become clear. That will take all that algae off, and by the time it gets to the end of that tube, they're very, very fine bubbles. Now I will say one thing. They do say that this is not the most efficient way of mixing ozone, but to be honest with you, this is a 7x6 shed and I just haven't got the space. I was going to fit a Venturi, but then to fit a Venturi I need to run a bypass system, and I just haven't got the space. I mean, if this works, absolutely brilliant. And so far it's been running, fired it up on the Friday before the show. So where are we now? This Friday coming, it'll be running a fortnight. And I've already seen results, I'm already seeing results, so that is working. But if it doesn't, or I'm not happy with it, I'll just have to bite the bullet next season and get an ozone resistant, what do you call them, protein skimmers. But again, I'm tight for space, but I think if I move them air pumps from there, I can slot it on that shelf. There'll be room to put it on that shelf. Now, getting back to this chloramine problem, I mean, literally 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was going to order another Big Blue, a big sack of catalytic carbon. What's that, 24 kilograms I think it is. Another Big Blue, and you know what, I thought to myself, oh, will that fix the problem, Marek? You know, that's leaching, within a fortnight that is leaching chloramines into the pond. So I'm thinking, well, if I put another Big Blue on there and a catalytic carbon, will that be enough, or will I need another Big Blue, which means I'll have 3 Big Blues in here, and the carbon. I mean, it's expensive. I just haven't got the space in here. You know, I've had to shut this. This is one of Finch's recyclable RO systems, and I'll tell you what, it works absolutely brilliantly. It really does. It brings the TDS right down. It works absolutely brilliantly. But the one thing that can literally handle everything you can throw at it, but it cannot handle chloramines. It just destroys the membranes prematurely, and they're like, well, pretty sure they're like £80 a pop now, and there's 4 of them. So this is just turned into a big desk weight, except it's not on a desk, it's hanging on the wall. You know, but it's redundant because I can't use it because I've got chloramines. And I thought, right, get another Big Blue, get some more carbon. And the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what, the way things are going, you know, these water companies, the water coming out of my tap is atrocious. And I think come weekends, come holidays, you know, any work they're doing out in the streets and the roads, they're just dumping chemicals into the water system. And I'm thinking, well, even with 3 Big Blues, who's to say that's still not going to leach through? Plus space, like I say, it's this 7.6 shed. You know, we've already got like Synergy 35 drum. You have to excuse the mess because obviously this project's still a bit ongoing. I don't know if I'm just rambling now, if this is making sense what I'm saying. I mean, I could put those Big Blues outside, I suppose, but then, you know, I'm heating the pond, so why do I want them sitting outside? I want them indoors, in here, where it's nice and toasty. I don't know, I very nearly pressed the button and bought it, and I thought, you know what, I'm halfway to an ozone unit. You know, I have played about with ozone in the past. I bought one of these jam jar things donkey's years ago that produced ozone. Funny enough, while I've been researching this ozone unit, you can still get them. I never understood why I could never get it to work. Anyway, there's a big disclaimer on it now saying, you know, this will not work in hard water areas. Of course, I'm as hard as you can get the water here. It's expensive to run. You can only buy the ozone generator cells in a packet of 3. Oh, packet of 3, all over the days. Tell you what, I can never work out why they sold them in a packet of 3s. Why not 2s or 4s or 6s? I often found that curious. Oh, memories. Going off on a tangent now. What was I saying? yeah, so researching this, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. There's so many plus sides to this ozone. I mean, the first thing you notice, well, the first thing I've noticed is the clarity of the water. I mean, I've always lived with coloured water because I feed heavily. And it's something I've been prepared to put up with because I know it's me, I know I'm feeding heavily. But the first thing I noticed, actually, I cleaned this yesterday. Let me have a look in here. This is my upflow filter. Now look at that. This is running. This is running. I mean, look how clear that water is. And I'll prove to you that's running because that is the outlet pipe. Goes through that shed wall and it goes out to the shower. I'll show you. Just to prove that that shower's working. Now look at them bubbles. They are white bubbles. They're not yellow or green, which they was a fortnight ago because of the colourants in the water. You see them bubbles, they're coming out the last return in the pond. You see how white they are? Not yellow, not green, that is white. Now, one of the downsides of using a static mixer like I just showed you, that clear tube, is at the end of it there's still ozone in the pipework, and you definitely do not want ozone in the pond. You're treating the water, you do not want ozone in the pond. So they recommend, after the mixing unit, after that tube, you need at least 1 metre of pipe work for every gram of ozone you're producing. Well, if that's a 2 gram machine I've got there, I need a minimum of 2 metres for the ozone, because ozone is very unstable. What it does, it tries to, you know, as soon as it finds a pathogen or bacteria or colorant or any organics, you know, it zaps it, and then any that's left over will just dissipate, die off, and it just relieves behind pure oxygen, like, you know. And you can stick your head over it all day long and you will not get a whiff of ozone whatsoever. There is no ozone, it's all been dissipated, all been used up. And if you take, where are we? If you go inside my shed and see where the end of that mixing tube is, and then follow it along to there, that's the first return going into the pond. Now there's no bubbles coming out of there because obviously bubbles won't travel downhill unless it's its last, you know, unless it's got no choice, it can't go anywhere else. But because that's on a slide valve, that can run along behind that pond, along that wall. There's another 2 outlets. There's another 2 returns by that fish. No bubbles coming out of there. And then it comes down behind that corner and it exits here. Now because this is the last return, obviously because I'm blowing bubbles, because I'm blowing air through that tube, these bubbles have got to come out somewhere, so they're coming out there, look. But they reckon, you just go walk about a minute. So, what was I saying? For every 2 grams of ozone I need 2 metres of pipe off the back of that mixing tube. Well, I worked it out, I've got at least 3 metres to that first return. I've got another 3 metres to this corner. I've got another 2 metres to these returns and another 3 metres there. So I reckon there's about 15 metres of pipe work. So it gives plenty of time for that ozone to dissipate, to do its job and to dissipate. So there's no ozone in that pond whatsoever. Now with ozone, you can smell ozone. You can smell ozone straight away. You know, if you've got ozone leak, or you can just smell it. There's no smells, nothing. That is pure saturated oxygen coming out of there. I just wish you could see past this glare. Right, let's go back in filter house again. Right, back inside the filter house. Something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, they reckon a maximum of 20 litres a minute to pass through that generator. But when I put it on full bore, I mean the bubbles going through that tube. The bubbles going through that tube was literally like a, it was like a jacuzzi, you know. See them bubbles there? It was way too much. And it was like a jacuzzi coming out of that last return in the pond. It was way too much. The idea of ozone is you want as fine a bubbles as you can get. So I've got a flow meter in line there, and you probably can't make it out. But I've got literally, I've reduced it down to 10 litres a minute air going through there. It makes no difference to how much ozone, because you know that's a finite number that's making. So whether you're pumping 5 litres a minute or 20 litres a minute, it doesn't make any difference to the ozone output. You're still getting the same amount of ozone, but you want them bubbles as fine as anything. So I've reduced that to 10 litres a minute. I mean, I'm still learning this, I'm still playing about with it and still fine-tuning it, but you know, like I say, this has been running since Friday before the show. That is crystal, absolutely crystal. Yeah, when I fired this up, I'd done a AUP reading, and I was reading 190, 195. I've got a sheet here, you probably can't read it, but I'll read it out to you basically. 120 millivolts, the water is very polluted, the pond filtration and aeration cannot keep up. 120 to 200 millivolts, the water is polluted, the pond filtration and aeration is struggling to keep up. 200 to 300 millivolts, the water is relatively clean. Now I've got a reading this morning of 275, so that's gone up from 190 to 275 in like a fortnight, or nearly a fortnight. The first couple of days I thought, oh, this isn't working, but then I was having a conversation with somebody and they said, well hang on Marek, if that water is polluted, it's going to take a certain amount of time for the water to become clean before those millivolts will start rising. And yeah, he had a point. Right, what are the benefits of ozone? Well, the first benefit is, as you can see, clarity. That's the first benefit. So you know it's working just by looking at the clarity. Loads of benefits. What does it do? Hopefully it would destroy, it would oxidise my chloramines. If it doesn't do it in one go, then it will destroy, it will oxidise the ammonia, because chloramines are made up of one atom joined together with like a chlorine molecule, so to help to make it stay in the water, whereas chlorine gas can dissipate. Sooner or later it will gas off to atmosphere, whereas chloramines won't. Once that's in your water, that's in your water. And that's the reason why I decided to go down the ozone route, basically because of my chloramines. Other benefits, pollutants, colorants in the water, algae. Sooner or later this pond should operate, although I am using my UV still 4 hours a day. Sooner or later, when these millivolts, when the AUP reading comes up in this pond, I should be able to switch off that UV. Bacteria, it will destroy all bacteria, good or bad bacteria, but because it's after the filter, it shouldn't be a problem. It should also lower the BODs, which is bacterial oxygen demand, which basically what that means is your filtration will become more efficient because there is more oxygen available to it, because it's not having to deal with all the organics and pollutants in the pond. So those organics and pollutants in your pond uses up oxygen. So by lowering the BODs, your filtration should become more efficient. The other key benefit for me is, the fish are not living in a chemical soup. I've seen people on YouTube, they're throwing in PP once a month, and throwing this in, throwing that in, I was the same. Don't get me wrong, I've been down that route, FMG, PP, and I just sit there and I think, what are you doing, Merrick? What am I doing? Just seem to be chasing me arse all the time. But the main reason was because, like I say, I've got this sitting here and it's redundant at the moment because it can't tolerate chloramines going through it. So the reason me getting ozone is to get rid of the chloramines. I can get this up and running, turn my hard water into soft water, or relatively soft water. I'm not going to run this on a knife edge, the same as I'm not going to run that ozone unit on a knife edge. I can get that up to 350, 375 millivolts. That means then that water becomes sort of self-cleaning. The water becomes oxidised, it becomes self-cleaning. It helps cross-contamination between the fish because the water's cleaner. It won't necessarily kill parasites unless there's any free-floating parasites that's physically travelling through there. But it will knock them back because they will feel uncomfortable, because the water, because the redox level of the pond's gone up, they will feel uncomfortable. And it's a cleaner pond environment where parasites, they take advantage. If you've got organics and pollutants and pathogens in your pond, the fish are using all their oxygen demand, all their food demand, trying to fight the system, trying to fight the water, trying to fight bacterial problems. Whereas if you've got clean, healthy fish, they can fight off those they're not going to kill them, but it will reduce it anyway. That's what I'm trying to say. Negatives, well, there is no I can only see one negative, and that is overdosing. And you've got to be really. Oh, excuse me. What was I saying? Negatives. The only drawback I can see really is the fact that overdosing, but literally I'm running this 12 hours a day at the moment. Once I hit that magic 375 millivolts, I'll see then maybe I only need to run it 6 hours a day. It's not designed to be run 24/7 anyway, you know, so it's best to go on a timer, or you can buy an AUP controller where you have a meter and a controller, so once the meter hits the set value that you put in it, it will switch this on and off automatically. But no need for that, you just an ordinary everyday AUP meter will do the job. I've got one of them there. I have got this, I bought this second hand off of eBay, come with 2 Pros, but I was a bit sceptical, but it was cheap enough compared to what these cost new, and I bought it. I bought it hoping I was going to get a bargain, but I had it in the back of my mind I wouldn't. I'm pretty sure both the probes are no good. The machine itself is alright, but I'm pretty sure both the probes have had it, so I'm not relying on that as a reason. Relying on that. Negatives. The only negative I can see really is overdosing, and I think you've got to be really stupid to overdose. I think you stand more chance of overdosing, putting chemicals on your pond, you know, overdosing with PP, FMG, whatever. But anyway, that's my reasoning. Hopefully, I don't know if I've explained it. I mean, I understand the fundamentals of it, but me trying to translate what I've got in my head into words is sometimes difficult, especially when I haven't rehearsed anything or even written any notes, you know. But I think once that gets to 350 to 375 millivolts, that will sort of be self-cleaning that water. The actual water will become an oxidizer in itself. Don't want to go any higher than that. I mean, 450 to 500 they say will definitely kill parasites, which I suppose really that's in the realms of PP, then, you know what I mean. You can do it, you can hold it there for like 6 hours at 500 millivolts, but that's, you know, to me that's running it on a knife edge, and don't want to go that route. Just everything I've read about it is advantageous rather than, you know, negatives. Right, let's go back outside and have a look at the pond. The other thing I meant to say as well, hopefully, because it drags down the BODs, the bacterial oxygen demand, it means, or I think it will mean, that my KH should last longer in this pond. Like I say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, you could throw a fish in here and forget about them, they look after themselves all right. I did have problems, so I did have to medicate once in a while, but it's not like it is these days, where it seems to be something wrong every week. Not every week, every month, you know. Every month, every couple of months, something shows itself, and you're chasing your arse all the time. But hopefully another advantage of this ozone, well, because there's a bacterial oxygen demand in the filter and in the pond is lower, hopefully the filters and the organics and everything in that pond won't be eating up the KH, so the KH should stay more stable, hopefully less buffering, which means a more stable pH. Be back in a minute. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there, gang. Thanks for watching, do appreciate it. I probably haven't done the subject justice. Well, I know I haven't done it justice, but anyway, it's just a video explaining my reasoning. Just going to add this clip on here. Hopefully this feeding will go off in a minute and you'll see the fish feeding, and also you'll see that air curtain. That air curtain is designed to come on 1 minute after the feeder goes off, so nothing goes down the skimmer. but you'll be able to see the colour of the bubbles. I mean, they're literally white bubbles. Try not to keep you hanging about too long. I can't really see the time on this phone, but I know it's about to go off, but it could be 10 seconds or 2 minutes, so I might turn it off and come back when it goes off. Well, they're all hovering, which means they're telling me basically what time it is, because they know, you know. They know when this is about to go off. It's not just because I'm standing here. Sorry about the glare. It's got to be 84 now, 85 cm, that Karachi, Ginwin Karachi, Marasai. Well, it might go off. Anichi yellow monkey. Where's he gone? Oh, there it is, come out there, look. Oh, that reminds me, we got, believe it or not, we've got wrens nested in there. Here we go, look, it's gone off. Here she comes, torpedo. Doo-doo. This feeder goes off, it's set for 6 minutes divided by 9. It goes off 9 times a day. And that air curtain should come on in a minute. That will stop any pellets going down that skimmer. Because as we all know, this sake is not cheap. I do feed heavy. There she goes, air curtains come on. That will run for 15 minutes. I'll just take you down here, see if I can show you the bubbles, see how white they are. See how white they are, look. No yellow tinge, no green tinge. Right, I'm going to call it a day there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, a bit long-winded, hope I come across okay. I hope I put the subject across okay. I probably didn't. You know, should have took notes or rehearsed it first. But anyway, please hit the like thumb and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.